Alright, welcome in everyone to my live stream here on YouTube and on Facebook. It is 7:33 and this is about the time of the day that we usually do what we call Weather for Weather Geeks. It's the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast. Thought I'd do it live this evening. It's Friday and we've got some things to talk about here in the short term before we get to the weekend forecast and the forecast for beyond. Let me just check and make sure that these streams are working correctly. Looks like we are in pretty good shape. Yeah, I think we are. If for some reason you can't hear me, be sure to let me know in the comments. I think we're pretty good. Just going to look at my phone real quickly and make sure that's the case. I've never tried a dual Facebook, YouTube live stream before, so I just want to make sure it's working. Yeah, I think we're good. All right. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning out as of 7:34 this evening for parts of Lawrence County. We've had some real isolated downpours late this afternoon and this evening. We had one isolated downpour up in Trumbull County that kind of petered out. Well, the cool outflow from that storm, kind of rain-cooled air, a little mini cold front, if you will, sparked up a couple of additional downpours in parts of Mahoning and Columbiana counties and now over into Lawrence County as well. Let's focus first on the warning situation over in Lawrence County, where we just got slammed with heavy thunderstorms last evening. This is not what we want in places such as Newcastle, but the primary reason for the warning over here, it is the hail. Yes, we're getting a downpour, and yes, probably some gusty winds and some frequent lightning, but much like the storms that rolled through kind of the same locations last evening, we're getting some decent-sized hail now moving through the west central part of Lawrence County. And so that's why the warning was issued until 8 o'clock this evening. Again, mostly a hail threat, but let's take a quick look at the wind velocity data off the Pittsburgh National Weather Service radar. Yeah, there's not much wind here, not really seeing much in the way of wind. This is just a tropical downpour that has some hailstones in it that could be up to a quarter size. Elsewhere in our area, we have another pretty hefty downpour that's been kind of parked over the Columbiana-Stark County line. Just north of Minerva up towards New Franklin. Not going to be surprised if the Weather Service has to hoist a flood advisory because this thing has hardly moved for a while. Let me do a 30-minute loop. And look how this thing is just kind of sat over New Franklin. This is hugging the border, the Columbiana-Stark County line, and therefore it's hugging the jurisdiction of two Weather Service offices. Stark County is Cleveland. Columbiana County is the jurisdiction of Pittsburgh. So not going to be surprised if one of those offices has to issue a flood advisory for this area, at least parts of that area, here before too much longer. Because when we look at some of the Doppler radar estimates here, flash flood warning for Lawrence now as well. When we look at some of the Doppler radar estimates in New Franklin and surrounding areas here, you know, I could see where there's pretty easily been an inch to inch and a half worth of rain over the last couple of hours. So 183, 172 areas. Again, this is well west of Hanoverton, north and west of Hanoverton, close to the Stark County line. Now, just in the last few seconds, a flash flood warning was issued for parts of Lawrence County. Same area that's under the severe thunderstorm warning is now under a flash flood warning. This includes the Newcastle area, Shenango, North Beaver, heading up towards Hickory as well. So yeah, we've got a flash flood warning and a severe thunderstorm warning basically in the same areas in parts of Lawrence County. Now, for those of us watching from Mahoning County, we had a couple of downpours earlier on around Youngstown, Boardman, Poland, Struthers. We are in the clear now. I think we'll be in good shape for the Chicago concert in downtown Youngstown at the amphitheater this evening. Up in Trumbull and Mercer counties, we're in pretty good shape. We'll keep an eye on what's going on up towards Cleveland. Let me strip off the warnings here, make this a little easier to see. We have some additional thunderstorm activity up here that I suspect is going to run out of gas as it comes south and east, but say it holds together. Eventually, this might impact our area, but I kind of suspect it's going to run into some rain-cooled air, some more stable air from Akron to Canton. But that's the next thing I'll be keeping an eye on this evening. But again, in the near term, two main areas of concern here, one in Lawrence County, and the other hugging the Stark Columbiana line, New Franklin, just to the north and west of Hanoverton. While I'm thinking of it, in case you missed our special last evening at 7 p.m. called New Norm, ? That is now available online, WFMJ.com. Some of you watched live, of course. Some of you may have DVR'd it. But in case you did not and want to check that out, all about the rain and crazy stormy weather we've had so far this year, how it relates to, well, some natural weather patterns and some most likely climate change induced things going on, as well as a preview of the rest of summer. Check that out, WFMJ.com. All right, but in the near term, this evening, a couple of areas of concern here. I think this is pretty sizable hail over in Lawrence County, hence the warning. It's not for the wind, it's for the hail over here. Sometimes our hail algorithm kind of overdoes it a little bit, but not going to be surprised if we have some hail the size of quarters, if not a little larger out here. Inch and a half might be pushing it, but I could see where there might be hail of 3/4 of an inch to about an inch. And don't forget, the definition of a severe thunderstorm is hail of 1 inch in diameter or larger, and or winds of 58 miles per hour or greater. For this storm, it's all about the hail. Colleen says, my friend in Cleveland, seeing a strong storm, hope it falls apart. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I kind of suspect it does, but we're going to keep a very close eye on that, of course, as we go through the next couple of hours. Over in Lawrence County, severe thunderstorm warning, flash flood warning, a torrential biblical downpour from Newcastle on west right now, and also some sizable hail. And then the other strong cell in our immediate area that has flirted with producing a little hail, but nothing of consequence. This is just more of a heavy rain threat right over New Franklin, right over the county line, the Stark-Columbiana line. And again, this is hardly moving, kind of like barely moving at all. So not going to be surprised if a flood advisory is needed for parts of this area. We'll come back to the radar in a moment. Did want to cover some other subjects since this is a kind of a traditional Weather for Weather Geeks video. At the airport today, we have not had any measurable rain, so our total stands at 8.15 inches for the month, about 0.9 inches below number 3 on this list, 2015. We might, if thunderstorms go over the airport tomorrow, we might get pretty close to the number 3 on the list of wettest Junes on record. It was 91 at the airport today, our hottest day of the year so far, beating yesterday's number by 1. So we've had 2 90-degree days so far this year, over the last 2 days. The hottest weather we've had since the first week of September of last year. I posted this on the Storm Tracker accounts earlier on today. On this date back in 1988, we set a record low of 44. Hey, what's the deal with that? That was a really hot summer. That was kind of a weird summer. It was really hot and it was really dry. But the nights were very cool, a lot of them anyway. And it was just a few days ago that back in 1988 we set a record high of 99, and then 3 days later a record low of 44. How can that be? The air was very, very dry in that drought summer of 1988, and drier air is able to cool off a lot faster than humid, moisture-laden air. So we had some hot days, but then it cooled off really quickly at night. And we saw some examples of that around this time, 31 years ago back in 1988. All right, again, before we head back to the radar, real quick talking about the middle of summer. July begins on Monday. The climatological averages, of course, temperature-wise, peak in the month of July at 82 degrees, right in the middle of the month. Traditionally, our hottest time of the year, of course, is the month of July, although June and August are not that far behind. Sometimes our hottest weather is reserved for late summer, towards the end of August and early September, but from a climatological standpoint, July is when those averages peak. What about the July forecast this year? We talked about this in our weather special last evening. I don't expect this July to be crazy hot, but I don't expect it to be unusually cool either. This is the overall forecast for the month of July. Highest odds of a cool July compared to average, Chicago, St. Louis, Des Moines. Highest odds for a warmer than average July along the coasts. And for us, not really a signal either way, so I wouldn't expect a lot of real extremes temperature-wise this July. Precipitation-wise, highest odds of wetter than average conditions being out in the middle of the country where they also don't need any rain. For us, I think it's kind of a neutral signal. Not going to be surprised if we're somewhere in the vicinity of average for the precipitation in July. It will not be as wet as June. That's pretty safe money at this point. It's been almost a year since we've had a below average month in terms of precipitation. July and August last year were drier than average. It's been wetter than average every month since. All right, if you have outdoor plans this weekend, tomorrow, shower and thunderstorm chances in the afternoon. It'll be kind of scattered about, and there could certainly be a tropical downpour if you do get under a storm. Now, Sunday, I think, is going to be a beautiful day. I've taken the high down to 82. I think the humidity is going to give us a break on Sunday. Notice our wind barbs here, if you look carefully. more of a northwesterly direction, and so that's a drier air mass. That's going to be a beautiful summer day on Sunday. But that's just a one-day deal. The humidity is going to start creeping back on Monday. The Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow has a low-end risk of severe weather from roughly 224 on south into the West Virginia Panhandle and out across central PA as well. Higher risk across eastern PA. Any storm that pops up across our area tomorrow could be feisty. I think they'll be moving faster than today's downpours. But any time you get under one of these tomorrow, you might be in for a kind of a feisty 15 or 20 minutes or so. All right, so if you're out on the lakes this weekend, stay weather aware on Saturday. We're talking about possibility of a thunderstorm, and you don't want to be caught on the lake on that. Have your Storm Tracker 21 app handy and track the rain and the lightning. Not sure why Sunday's forecast data is now missing, but as I mentioned before, Sunday is going to be a beautiful day. All right, dew points giving us a break on Sunday, but notice how fast they bump back up early next week and taking us through the end of next week. It's going to be a pretty steamy first week of July, including on the 4th of July. Not as hot probably as last year, but not far off either. We had a hot day last year on the 4th of July, tying for the hottest mark we had all of last year. We had several 92s last year, but never got hotter than that. That was the 4th of July last year. It was a dry day. This year, we have a chance of a shower and thunderstorm in the forecast. Otherwise, upper 80s and, pretty typical stuff for the first week of July. All right, let me head back to the radar and kind of wrap up this live video. Severe thunderstorm warning and flash flood warning is out for parts of Lawrence County. The severe thunderstorm warning runs until 8. The flash flood warning until 9:30 this evening. Again, this is Lawrence County. We're in pretty good shape in Mahoning, Mercer, and Trumbull for the time being. But this is bringing too much rain at one time to areas that had flooding problems last evening. And so this is the last thing we want to see. And the reason for the severe thunderstorm warning is not wind, it is hail. Maybe a gust of wind with this, but probably no severe wind. But hail of at least a quarter size moving through central and west central parts of Lawrence County. Taking a quick peek at the wind data, there might be a pretty good gust of wind right now southwest of Newcastle where you see these brighter greens. But overall, the wind is not priority number one here. Priority number one is primarily the hail and the rain. Just torrential downpours affecting 18, affecting 224, 317, 376, north and southbound. That is no fun over in Lawrence County right now. This looks like it's kind of petering out finally after dumping a lot of rain over New Franklin over the last hour or so. Finally, it's kind of raining itself out. And as we go over the next hour or two, I'll keep an eye on what is going on closer to Cleveland up towards Medina and Wadsworth. This activity is shifting south and east. I kind of suspect it's going to run into some stable air and start to lose its luster, but it definitely bears watching for anyone in our television viewing area over the next hour or two. All right, so I'm going to wrap up this video at this point. I'll have more updates on social media throughout the evening. Thanks for watching this evening, and have a great rest of your Friday night and a great weekend.